up our hands, for the joy of the Lord is our strength. We bow down and worship Him now. How great, how awesome is He, and together we sing, holy is the Lord God Almighty. The earth is filled with His glory. Holy is the Lord God Almighty. The earth is filled with His glory. The earth is filled with His glory. Come on, we stand and lift. We stand and lift up our hands, for the joy of the Lord is our strength. We bow down and worship Him now. How great, how awesome is He, and together we sing. Everyone sing, everyone sing. Shout it, holy is the Lord God Almighty. The earth is filled with His glory. Holy is the Lord God Almighty. The earth is filled with His glory. The earth is filled with His glory. Holy is the Lord God Almighty. The earth is filled with His glory. Holy is the Lord God Almighty. The earth is filled with His glory. The earth is filled. Come on, one more time. Holy is the Lord God Almighty. The earth is filled with His glory. Holy is the Lord God Almighty. The earth is filled with His glory. The earth is filled with His glory. One more time. The earth is filled with His glory. Praise the Lord.
The British Virgin Islands are oftentimes referred to as the BVI. They are located in the Caribbean, not too far from Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and Anguilla. It is part of an island chain collectively known as the Virgin Islands, which makes up the northeastern extremity of the Greater Antilles. The British territory consists of 4 larger islands: Tortola, Anegada, Virgin Gorda, and Jost Van Dyke. There are 32 smaller islands and islets, of which more than 20 are uninhabited. Lesser islands include Great Tobago, Salt, Peter, Cooper, Norman, Guana, Beef, Great Thatch, Little Thatch, and Marina Cay. The chief town and port is Road Town on Tortola, 21 square miles, 54 square kilometers, the largest of the islands. The total area of the colony is 59 square miles, or 153 square kilometers. The economic mainstay of British Virgin Islands are tourism and financial services. Tourism based on the nearly perfect climate, sparkling beaches, tropical vegetation, and undersea coral reefs provides about half of the island's income and is the largest employer. Also important is the offshore financial service sector. The most important agricultural activity is livestock raising. The main crops are bananas, sugarcane, citrus fruits, coconuts, mangoes, and various root crops. Some fruits and vegetables continue to be exported, but most crops are grown for local consumption. Fishing in the well-endowed coastal waters is a growing industry, and fresh fish have become a significant export. Manufacturing is restricted to the production of rum, paint, and building materials such as sand and gravel. Cottage industries produce woven baskets and other items that appeal to the tourist trade.
Just 3 hours from Miami and 8 from London is Antigua, the largest island in the nation of Antigua and Barbuda. Whatever time zone you're coming from, the moment you set foot here, you're walking in island time. Christopher Columbus claimed the island for Spain and named it after the cathedral in Seville, Spain, called Santa Maria de la Antigua. But he was in too much of a hurry in 1493 to stop, so he sailed by. Don't you make the same mistake and be in too much of a hurry to enjoy and worship and fellowship at one of the island's churches. 74% of the island's population are Christians. Enjoy one of the island's 365 beaches, one beach per day. However, you won't see all the beaches. Don't you even try. Antigua's capital, built by British, is called St. John's. Their main language is English. In 1981, this island, though still colonized by the British, became independent. Tourism dominates the economy. However, agriculture was the mainstay. Their local currency is the Eastern Caribbean dollar, with a fixed rate since 1976 of EC $2.70 per US $1. The flag was displayed with the black for the African ancestry of the people, the blue for hope, the red for dynamism and energy. The yellow, blue, and white also stand for the sun, the sea, and the sand. Blue represents the Caribbean Sea and the V for victory. These two sparkling like twin emeralds, Antigua and Barbuda, is all about feelings. For thousands of years, Antiguans have called this island our place. So come, set your mind to island time and make it your place too, the land of sea and sun, Antigua and Barbuda.
See, I decided to take a stand, not knowing I'd lose my best friend, but I'd rather live right than in hell to lift up mine eyes. All of God's children say stand, stand, and then you tell your neighbor, say you stand, stand for holiness, stand for holiness, stand for righteousness, and be counted among them that shall reign with him. Oh, you stand, oh,
when friends are gone.
Oh, stand when you're all alone, and believe he shall receive his own. Oh, I decided to take a stand, not knowing I'd lose all of my friends, yes, but I'd rather live right than in hell to lift up mine eyes. All of God's children say stand, yeah, stand, and then you tell your neighbor, say you stand, oh, yeah. So stand for holiness, yes, and be counted among them that that shall reign with him. You stand. When you're all alone and believe he shall receive his own. Oh, stand for holiness, for all that God has told you, and be counted among them that shall reign with him. You stand. Oh, when friends are gone, yeah. When you're all alone and believe he shall receive his own. Oh, stand for holiness. Nothing better than him, and be counted among them that shall reign with him. You stand. Oh, when friends are gone. Oh, yeah. When you're all alone and believe he shall receive his own. Say, stand for holiness. Stand for holiness, yeah. And be counted among them that shall reign with him. You stand, yeah. When friends are gone, yeah. When you're all alone and believe it, and believe it shall receive, and believe it shall receive all his own. So tell them just, so we gotta do it. We gotta do it now. We gotta do it now. Now tell somebody, say, you stand. Hello, everybody. It is a pleasure to be back with you. Wish we were around each other a lot more intimately. Miss the fellowship, miss being there, miss the food. You know what I'm talking about? So I missed it. I missed some, I don't know, it's my time to be back in the Caribbean, and that just brings a lot of great memories. And I pray that you would enjoy this message, but I'm so glad my friend Pastor Roderick Webster is doing this despite COVID, despite everything that has taken place over the time, that we find a way to still continue forward, because that to me is what the church is about. The church is about how do we continue to be a blessing, continue to be productive, no matter what we're facing, no matter how difficult the circumstances are, because that's how we grow. That's how we become more efficient and effective for the glory of God. And I pray this message would guide you back this way, because what we're dealing with is what the Bible calls diaspora. This is nothing new in Scripture. So I pray that this message would serve you as pastors, as leaders, as churches, and I pray that it would encourage you, because that's what we all need in a time that we've been going through. So it's really nice to know that I'm able to tune in and to see many of you preach, and etc. I pray that you would be a part of the daytime classes. We've worked hard to make sure that they serve you efficiently and effectively to build your ministries and to serve God for the glory of God. So I'm praying that this conference continues to be a blessing, and I'm excited that Pastor Webster would allow me to be a part of it. So stay tuned to this message, and I pray that we'll grow together, because we are in this all together, no matter what part of the world we're in. It is a blessing to serve. Thanks for allowing me that privilege. What is taking place in this time is a time in biblical history called diaspora. Okay, what does all that fancy stuff mean? It's a time in biblical history that where God is upset at people and he just lets calamity come upon them. He just backs up. Please understand what that's like. We tend to think that because of airbags and seat belts and anti-lock brakes and all these different neighborhoods that we can live in a, we believe, it's secure manner, that is the antibody system to evil. That protects us in evil. That's what we believe. It's not so. There are two forces out there. Satan is a person, the Bible says he's a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. You analyze the word seeking and you run to Revelation chapter 12. It's going to tell us that he's going to heaven day and night. You saw the story of Job, seeking whom he could devour. In other words, our name is constantly on his mind. He constantly wants to find ways to devour us, to take us down. Discouragement is different ways, not just sicknesses, not just a virus, it's not health. Sometimes he wants to discourage us. He wants to make us so perplexed in the mind that we get crazy about our relationship with God. Paul talks about it, perplexed but not crushed. He goes down the list of the things that Satan would try to do in order. That's why Paul would say, I know his schemes. I could see you coming. He does all these different things in order to tear us down. So when God decides to back up, boom, Satan is there. It's not like you got to call him. That's why I don't like people talking to Satan. Satan could be in North Africa and we keep talking to him. I don't know why people do that. And so don't do it. It's dangerous, very dangerous. Don't ever do it. So when we back up God, Satan is right here. It's not like he's knocking at the door. Backs up, boom. That's how rapid it is. Job, you could do this to Job, that to Job, that to Job. And Job had sores. Didn't take a day. So understand, when God decided in the nation of Israel, because he told his preacher in 2 Timothy 3:17, he said this to the preacher. He said, listen, everything I do is in the Bible. Everything. As a pastor, you never take your head out of it. Everything is in there. 2 Timothy 3:17, you could read it. Everything is in there. So when this is all going on, the answer is in there. It's not away from there. How do you make it through the storm? That's the first study. The second study is, how do you come back from it? Called diaspora in the Bible. It's not like this is the first time there's pain on God's people's lives in the Bible. It's been going on. It's been happening. It's been taking place over and over again. So it's nothing new, nothing different. So the Bible is saying there's a way to come back. There's a way to come back that pleases God. Because if that way to come back doesn't take seriously, God says we ain't serious, so guess what? We suffer more. The vaccine has to be redone or something pops up. Because he's saying, hey, I don't like you just coming back like this is some kind of ritual. And that's what we find in this story here in Isaiah. The story in Isaiah is a group of people who he is saying, this story in Isaiah you could read in Nehemiah 5. It's a prophecy attached to Nehemiah 5. So when you're reading Nehemiah 5, the story behind Nehemiah 5 is being told by Isaiah ahead of Nehemiah going through his problems. Ahead of it. God is prophesying to the people that are in Nehemiah, when you're coming back, this is the mindset you must have, and this is why this is important. And he's giving them the background to this in Isaiah chapter 58. Now understand, in Isaiah 58, what he's saying to them is, here's my problem with you. So let's read the first part of Isaiah 58, because I want you to hear God speaking attached to what is his problem in the manner in which they're coming back. Because Nehemiah has to come later on in the book of Nehemiah and fuss at them because they were doing whatever they want on their return. They were living any kind of way. They were coming to God's temple any kind of way. And Nehemiah says, are you serious? How could we go through this much mess, this much trouble, this much pain, and you were going to come back and function this way after all of that? And you're not learning. Nehemiah has to come and literally fuss at them, go into the temple and fix everything the way it's supposed to be. Now look at chapter 58 verse 1. Let's see the problem that God has had since we just came off a fast. To some of us, these things are just happening. And I don't want you to think that way. The fast came at January. I don't see that anymore like that. I see God is very systematic and very organized. Nothing happens outside of his way of thinking and organization of things. Understand, if he could tell people in the wilderness that anybody 20 years and below lives, and there's no hospitals, no MD Andersons, no nothing, and everybody 20 years and below live, that's how meticulous God could be. He could let, when you go to the book of Deuteronomy, don't go there, at the end of the book of Deuteronomy, it would say, Moses did not die. God make a point to say this. At the age of 120, Moses did not die from any kind. When he died, he had no messed up ears, no messed up eyes. Moses was healthy enough to climb a mountain and God bury him without a hospital. Without constantly going there to check on him and to have his health checks done and to do all kind of physical checks. Nothing. God is that kind of God. We live in a culture and in a society that makes us think that that's what's keeping us going. And the Bible is going, no, it ain't. Matter of fact, in 2 Chronicles, in chapter 16, and there was a king, Asa, who thought that way. And God says, since you think that way, you're dead. God takes it personal. Understand why? Because he is saying, worship starts with respect. It starts with a respect for who he is. That is worship. Worship is not just coming and hearing a song. Worship is respect. Where in the temple was there a song? They came to the temple, they gave worship. They came to the temple, they asked for forgiveness, worship. They came to the temple and they sat in the outer courts like you would see Jesus at the age of 12, listening to the rabbis teach and teach and teach. Why? Because that is worship. Worship teaching came after worship, not before. If a person's heart wasn't right, as you see with kids, sometimes they hear you better after the whipping, not before. Worship came before. In other words, they came and they gave to God and they sacrificed animals to God and they did what they were supposed to do when it came to the temple. Then they were ready to listen. And they sat in the outer courts to hear the rabbis and the prophets teach. Because their hearts was what he was after. He says this in Isaiah chapter 58. He says, cry loudly. Do not hold back. Raise your voice like a trumpet and declare to my people their transgression and to the house of Jacob their sins. Yet you seek me day by day and delight to know my ways. As a nation that has done righteousness and has not forsaken the ordinances of their God. They ask me for decisions. They delight in the nearness of the Lord. Why have ye fasted and you do not see? In other words, you're coming to me with all these rituals, but you don't see any response. You're crying, you're hollering, you're speaking to me, you're saying things to me, you're shouting loud to me, you're crying out to me, and I ain't doing nothing. You fasted, I still ain't doing nothing. You asked for decisions to be made, I ain't doing nothing. He says, why? He says in verse 4, behold, you fast for contention and strife, to strike with the wicked fists. You do not fast like you do today, to make your voice heard on high. It is a fast like this which I chose, a day for a man to humble himself. Is it for the bowing one's head like a reed, for the spreading out of sackcloth and ashes as a bed? Will you call this a fast, even an acceptable day of the Lord? You do all of this. He says, what are you doing it for? When I look at your heart, there's a problem. When I look inside of you, I don't see what is coming on the outside. I see a bunch of outside stuff, but I live on the inside. My focus is the inside. Why? When we die, it's the inside that makes a difference. When we first die, if the rapture hasn't happened, we go to God in spirit beings. That's why I don't care for racism. What's racism? When we first get to heaven, we're spirit beings. Not until the rapture, we put on our glorified bodies and get the skin color back on. We're all spirit beings. I don't even know why the church could ever be racist. It don't make any sense. God is into the inside. On the inside is what he's into. Why? That's what's going to be with him before the rapture. The inside. Because he's a spirit being. So he says, when I see the fasting and the praying and the crying out and the sackcloths and the laying on the ground and all this other stuff, that impresses you, but I'm looking on the inside. He says in verse 6, he says this, is this not the fast which I chose to loosen the bonds of the wickedness, to undo the bands of the yoke and let the oppressed go free and break every yoke. In other words, if your fast was sincere, when you come out of it, it should look like me. That's what he's saying. That's why he says in verse 9, then. In other words, we can't get to then if you ain't straight. There's no point in talking about then in verse 8, verse 9. Then you will call. Why does he say then? Don't call on me when in verse 7 you don't feed the hungry. The homeless mean nothing to you. Well, you call on me when you're not even a good witness to the people around you, verse 8. When people look at our lives and how we're operating and how we're functioning and how we're behaving on our jobs and at our house and how we're behaving in the community, and they don't see Christ coming out of us, he says, what's the point of all of this? You're not even a light to the world. You're not even the kind of person that looks like Jesus Christ. He says, when that is in place, then. Can't forget the then. Then is a time element. Then we will know our hearts. Walk with me. Watch these words carefully. Why? There's no point to all of this if things don't become airtight. In other words, if you want meat to not get freezer burn, they got these things you could put it in that becomes airtight. And when it's airtight, the meat could sit in there, fish could sit in there, and when you bring it out, it still has a freshness to it because it was airtight. God is saying, when you come to me, let's get rid of the air that corrodes it. So that when the relationships works past that, it's airtight and it produces what we're crying for. What we're crying for. Please understand, folks. It was hard for them to listen to this when he was preaching, because at the time he was preaching, everything was good. Up north, Uzziah, prosperity. Some people haven't been touched by this virus, still got jobs, still doing good. God sustains you. He kept you. And that's why it was hard for them to hear nothing. They had to hear nothing. They got jobs. They're going to work. They got homes they were living in that he put them in the promised land. Everything was good. Why is this preacher talking stupid? We're doing good. People are always into the present because God's message, forgetting that God's message is always into the present to the future. It's never just in the present. They keep forgetting that. How many times are we raising kids and say, you can't do that? Why? It's great. You let me have your car to go on a date. It's got, well, I used to make them put gas in it because I ain't doing that. I used to tell them, I got one date and I pay for one date and that's your mama. I ain't paying for no more dates. So you get a job before you get a date. Since you're a boy, you get a job, then you get a date. You got to get a job, learn to drive, have money, and then you go on a date. Your money, your gas, my car is the investment in your future. Dad, that's a whole lot of stuff, and I just want to date. My friend's been dating since 15. You can't get a job till you're 16, so that takes care of that. So you're trying to tell me I got to wait till I'm 16? No, I tell you got to wait till you get a job. 16 ain't got nothing to do with it. If they let you get a job at 16, you get a job at 16. That shows a level of maturity. Do you show up at the job on time? Do you work good on the job? Do you bring home your money and spend it properly? If you can't show me those things, why are you taking somebody's daughter out there? You're irresponsible. Yeah, I wouldn't let you take my daughter. Why are we telling them that? It's a present thing for a future. Why? A parent is supposed to raise a child for the future. The Bible says, raise them up in the way they shall what? Not for now. So when I'm raising the boys, my wife and I, when we're raising the boys, understand, we are talking to the kids for the future, because in preparing them to be grown men and take care of their families, that's critical. We tend to look at God speaking today. God's words are never just for today. God is seeing the future, and that's why the message is today. He's not giving us a message today for today. He's looking at the future and telling us from the future why this message today is important. That's why he's speaking to them, but they can't hear him. They're doing good. Things are going great. There's no need to hear him. They got so sick of this message, they took Jeremiah, who keep preaching forward like Isaiah, and lock him in a well, hoping he'd die. That's how stubborn people can become when God keeps blessing them and taking care of them. They don't hear. That's like a teenager. I call them teenage Christians. That's what I call them. Baby Christians, tell me, give me the milk, give me the milk, give me the milk. Teenage Christians, we got this. We know what we're doing. We've been in church a long time. Pastor, go ahead and preach. Come on now, lift a leg, shake something, do something. I need to feel happy today. That's teenage Christians. That's teenage Christians. That's what I call them. That's why he says, then. In other words, if you don't cross the line of then stay in verse 1 through 8. Don't come to verse 9. There's no airtight process forward. It's not there. So how do I make sure my heart is right, since that's what he's looking at? This is what he's going to say. You will call, and the Lord will answer. This is the resultive act if the heart is right. You will cry out to him. Calling is different than crying. Calling shows that I recognize that God is going to be the one I must respond to. Crying is, I don't think he's responded. And ain't no other person to go to. So since there's no other person to go to, I'm going to cry. I'm going to holler. I'm going to lift up my voice. I'm going to speak loud. I'm going to keep crawling out to him. If a person doesn't get to cry, chances are their heart isn't right. If I don't know God's heart, how am I going to have a heart of him? David is a man after God's own heart. It's God's heart first before it becomes my heart. And he's literally saying in this passage, a person that starts to cry. In other words, a person that will call on God, they could pray and go about their business. But a person that moves from calling to God to crying is a person who says, I know your heart. And if I do what you need me to do, I got this. And I know you will answer. I know you will respond. I know you will do what you say you will do. So there is nobody else to go to but you. So I will call, and since I'm not going anywhere because I know you will answer, I will cry. Paul would say the same thing. Be anxious for nothing. Pray and what? Supplicate. If I get to the point of I'm on my chest saying, God, you got to move. God, that means I'm not going over here trying to fix this, going over here trying to work this person, going over here trying to do anything. I am on my knees and on my chest saying, you're it, God. When a person gets to that point, he says, this is the kind of heart that comes out of them. You will know them by the fruit that they bear. So if I don't answer, you already know why I shouldn't. Because you're seeing the fruit. So don't blame me first when at the same time I'm telling you, just make this thing airtight. Let's lock this down. I'm all for you. You don't have to worry because look back to chapter 55. He says, I'm here. In chapter 55, this is what he says. In verse 6, he says, seek the Lord while he may be found. Call upon him while he's near. But I'm after your heart. Let the wicked forsake his ways, and the unrighteous man his thoughts. Understand what he's saying? Now that you show your heart to me, let me show you what that heart looks like from me. But the heart, he says, that comes out of the person represents the heart that met him. So he's responding to the heart in order for this to be airtight. So watch what the heart looks like. And I want you to see, I'm going to take you to some scriptures you got to turn today. Okay, that's like turning channels. It's like going to the grocery store. Got to turn some things here today. Now, watch what he says about the heart. And folks, if our heart isn't here, don't waste God's time because he's looking at the heart. God ain't looking at the outward appearance. Many say, Lord, Lord, and few will enter the kingdom of heaven. Somebody could have a Lexus, a Bentley, live in River Oaks and all that stuff. It don't impress them. They could have no home in heaven. There could be a person that ain't saved and went to hell. So what is all the fanfare for if my heart isn't right? God will bless me if my heart is right. And that blessing continues to heaven. So whatever I was blessed with on earth, I get triple that in heaven or more. So why not be blessed? So I'm blessed here and there, so I don't miss out on nothing. You know, this is a funny thing. I never forget this. I was speaking for Dr. Evans. And so all the preparations were for Dr. Evans. So I didn't get twisted. But Dr. Evans couldn't go. He says, hey, Paul, why don't you go? I said, yes, sir. Is that, you telling me to go or you? No, go. Yes, sir. Jumped on the plane. Arrived there. And it's a limo waiting for me. You know, I'm Paul Cannon, man. I don't think like that. So I'm walking up there, looking around, and I'm saying, got my name on there, but limo? Must be another Paul Canning. So I'm standing there. He goes, are you Dr. Cannings? I said, okay, put the doctor on there. He said, it got to be me. I always know when people really, really know you. They're always going to try and impress you when they meet you. Dr. Cannings, Dr. Paul Cannings. I said, oh, wow. Oh, man, I got sophisticated. So I went in there and I sat down in the limo, feeling real uncomfortable. He says, you got a phone there. You can use the phone. We've got something for you to drink. I'm in this limo. I said, wow. So I don't know what to do. I must admit, I was like, really? This ain't no funeral and I'm in a limo? I went, got there. Somebody met me at the door. The guy says, I will be next door in case you need anything. And here's your room. I went in the room and I went, whoa. Hey, Doc. Hey, man. Any more speaking engagements do you have? He says, why? I can't tell you. Just dream about it. What are you talking about, Paul? I said, man, just dream about it. I can't tell you. You may land and come here. I'm enjoying this. The minute I got home, my wife knew nothing about it other than, baby, listen, I'm like first class, you know. Kids were small. I'm like first class. I didn't keep her along with all the story. I'm going to tell her when I get home. Because I know she had 2 kids, and we got 2 kids, and there's homework and all this other stuff, and that's all the stuff she got on her. So I ain't called her to tell the whole thing. I just told the girl, I am like first class up in here. That's about all she knows, you know. I get home, and when I come to the back door, she says, hey, please get the trash. Boom, there it is. You know, it's like I come home, I'm ready to talk about, hey, guess what, man, you know, this and this happened and all this other stuff. She says she's rushing around because they got small kids, they got games, they got this going on. No negative to her. She's trying to manage her home because the beautiful thing about my wife is I never came home and stuff wasn't going forward. I mean, I could just jump into the flow of things. It's just how she was. That's what stopped me from traveling. I came home one day and she says, we'll see you later. I said, oh, no, this has gone too far. Okay? I mean, she just went into the flow of things. So she didn't mean no harm. She didn't know nothing other than, girl, it's happening up in here. You're missing out. That's about all she heard. I came home, she goes, take the trash out. I got to take the trash out because we got to do this, we got to do this, got to do that. Right away, what happened? My big fat bubble went, boom. It's like, man, really? Beds were made. I had a chocolate on the pillow. The sheets were moved back. The temperature was set for the night. There was a refrigerator with stuff in it. Take out the trash. It's interesting that sometimes we come before God and we are excited, we're singing, we're praising God, we're doing all this stuff, and God goes, good. I'm glad you had a wonderful worship service. But I need to know your heart. Because I got the singing in heaven. I got angels. Niggas sing better than anybody you got. I got it going on. I take your worship service because of your heart. If I know where your heart is, it's a better sense of appreciation. That's what it is. And that's why he says a heart that sincerely loves him comes out this way. You will know them by the fruit that they bear. So when we're praying and we're calling to God and we're fasting and we want an answer, do we look like this? Because he says, when you look like this and you come back to me and you're serious about me, and I look inside of you, I want to work for you. You're my people. I'm only working for you. I'm not working for the sinner. I'm not working for the people who don't know me. I'm not working for the people who don't have a covenant with me. I'm working for you. The only people I'm committed to is you. I'm only committed to the church. I'm the head of it. It's my body. The only place I'm committed to is the church. So I'm not working for anybody else. I'm glad to work for you. I'm only committed to you. But where's your heart? We've made God a sugar daddy. Bless me in the city, bless me in the fields. We give to God with agendas. I give you $5, I expect pressed down and overflowing, 25 back. Where's the heart? He says, when that happens, I will take the yoke off your neck. But here's the thing about the heart. The yoke has to do with when a person was taken as a prisoner. He says, you think you were living strong, but Satan had you as his prisoner. When you come to me the right way, I'll take that yoke off of you. He says this, the pointing of the finger, like to blame people. Folk do that in marriages all the time. It's your fault. If you just didn't go do this. Finger pointing. Finger pointing in the Bible literally means a person who's making a false accusation, acting like they're innocent about stuff, don't care about the facts, don't care about what the facts say, what's going on and nothing. They just believe it's you. And they just point the finger at you. The Bible says that tells you that you're not willing to look at me, at yourself. What is your responsibility in this situation? No. It's about you. You the reason. Has no sense of responsibility in the situation. The Bible says, anytime a person examine themselves and come before God, that's a good person. But if a person is going to be self-righteous, my mom used to say this all the time, self-righteous and point to somebody, she used to say, watch the 3 fingers on your hand. Where they pointing to? When I used to go to her and say, my brother did this and my sister did this, she says, Paul, hold up a minute, watch your hand. Watch my hand. Where's them 3 fingers pointing? Start there. There are more fingers pointing at you than pointing at them. So why don't you check and see what is your sense of responsibility in what you're doing? Because if you fight for yourself, that's what you're going to lose, yourself. But if a person gives up themselves for Christ's sake, they gain themselves. That's why the Bible is saying, don't just come and start pointing to people and saying who's wrong. The Bible says, check where your responsibility is in it. And when a person is doing that, guess who they're evaluating that inner self with? God. So who they're back to, crying and calling to who? God. They're not so busy pointing the finger that God is out the picture in a relationship with them. So you know a person, when trouble comes, they are more committed to the relationship with God than what happened. Job's friends were all in his face. What did Job do? Let's talk about why is God doing this to me? I'm back to God. What happened with God? How could God do this? Remember David? And Nathan comes up there. Oh, well, you got all these, he did all this stuff with this woman, man. Oh, no, you see, David said, what if a man had this situation? What would happen? Oh, we'll do this to him. Pointing. He says, you the man. You need to examine yourself before you start pointing to the man you're about to judge. The Bible says when you go to judge somebody, you may have a log in your eye while you talk about their speck. So the first thing he's saying here about the heart of the person is, he is saying that the person's heart is a self-examination all the time. Here's the second thing he says, right here. This is the heart of the person. He says, the pointing of the finger, speaking wickedness. Speaking wickedness here means trying to find a way to go behind the person's back and trying to stir up trouble. Stir up trouble. In other words, if I can't get my way, I'm going to tear up this family. If I can't get my way, I'm going to tear up the church. If I can't get my way, I'm going to tear down the country. I got to have my way. I want you to talk to James chapter 3. I got to have my way. If I don't have my way, I don't care what's turned down. That's what he says, speaking wickedness. Speaking wickedness is knowing that when I finish speaking, there's a whole lot of junk that comes out of it. People attacking the Capitol. There's all kind of mess that comes out of it. When a person is speaking wickedness, I'm not trying to be political, I'm just telling you the truth. It was smack in your face. When a person is speaking wickedness, accept the facts. Don't become Democrat and Republican. Truth is truth. Don't jump from there. You're a Christian first. You're not a politician first. Okay? That's where God have you. The church is the pillar and support of truth. It doesn't jump to political parties first. Stay there. Stop letting these people corrupt us. Now go to James. The Bible says in James chapter 3, he tells us what this problem is. He says what it looks like. People could talk like they're wise, but when the end of it there's fighting and bickering and stirring up of trouble, the Bible is telling us that person's heart isn't right. Because they're not speaking the wisdom they're claiming to speak, they are speaking wickedness, and that's the outgrowth of how it looks. In James chapter 3 verse 13 he says, who among you is wise and understanding? Let him show it by his good behavior, his deeds, in the gentleness of wisdom. But if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambition in your heart, back to the heart, do not be arrogant and so lie against the truth. This wisdom is not that which comes down from above, but it is earthly, natural, and demonic. For where jealousy and selfish ambition exists, there is disorder of every evil thing. Every evil thing. But the wisdom from above is pure, peaceable, gentle, reasonable, full of mercy and good fruits, unwavering, without hypocrisy. And the seed whose fruit is righteousness, when you see this come out of a person's heart, is sown in peace by those who what? Make peace. So when a person is creating a ruckus and destroying things around them, their family, and just going off and cussing and tearing stuff down and don't care who walk out the door and don't care who's going to divorce and all these different things, the Bible is saying the fundamental thing is their heart. Because if they have my heart, they will fight for peace. They may not achieve it, but they fight for it. Because that's where my heart is. Why? God is a God of what? Peace. The fruit of the Spirit is what? Peace. So a person can't be of the fruit of the Spirit and create a lot of controversy and tear things down and rip things apart and say that's of God. No, it's not. Their heart is messed up. So how are you going to come to me with a heart that is so disruptive and pray for me to work for you to be together? That's an oxymoron. That's hypocrisy. It doesn't work that way. So nothing we're doing is airtight. It doesn't produce a freshness after being in the refrigerator for a while. It's messed up. But we're crying, we're calling on God, we're fasting like the Pharisees did, all day fasting, praying, calling on God. But the nation of Israel was so far removed from God, it would nail Jesus to the cross. I could have had this virus to where it doesn't take the church out. But I didn't. Lord, why you include Living Word? Well, let's look at the people that I saved at Living Word to see if I didn't. So folks, here's the heart. And here's the heart. And we have to examine ourselves today. And see how we keep this airtight. Because I don't want to go back here no more. I always tell you all this. I don't mind getting a lesson from God, but I like getting it once. I don't want it twice. The second time around is harder. I don't know about y'all. You track the Bible. You go to a lesson 2-3 times, he like say you die in the wilderness. he don't play. He gets to a point where we go, you know what? I tested your heart in the wilderness. I brought you out from here, opened up the Red Sea, took you through the wilderness, and you still keep acting this way. Deuteronomy chapter 8. I told you that man does not live by bread alone. Man lives by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. And when I kept you out here, your heart came out messed up, so you stay here. It happened in the Bible before. It's nothing new. Look at what he says. He says, if you give yourself to the hungry, if you give yourself to the hungry, back to Isaiah chapter 58, if you feed the hungry, if in the midst of this mess and all that you're going through, it didn't leave you to come out corrupt. In other words, sometimes I always tell people this, you don't know the person until they're in trouble. He says, you would know the heart in trouble. So in the midst of trouble, he said, did you keep feeding the hungry or did you oppress them? Did you satisfy the desires of the afflicted or did you cause more affliction? Because when you read Isaiah, they were horrible to the poor people. They were horrible to the afflicted. They oppressed them. They cut them back. If they had a job they're working on and they know that job is $500, they would do their best to get a person down to $200. They oppress them. If you start reading the first part of Isaiah, they were treating them ugly. And God is saying, how could you treat them ugly? And here's the reasons why. We're getting short on time, so I already say this. And I want you to turn to this when you get home. This is huge. He is saying to us, he's saying, if a person has my heart, if you love the Lord with all your heart, your soul, and your mind, guess what you would do to your neighbor? You would love them. Loving them don't mean I just feel good about it. Loving them in the Bible means that whatever God is saying, because I love them with all my heart, my soul, and my mind, whatever he's saying, I will love my neighbor based on his word. And I will do whatever God is saying in his word to the neighbor. So it doesn't matter what the neighbor is doing. No matter who the color the neighbor is. It doesn't matter if they're Democrat or Republican. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter. It matters that God is telling me to love my enemy this way. God is telling me to love my wife this way. God is telling me to love my husband this way. God is telling me to love the person on my job that is messed up, talking to me crazy. He tell me to love them this way. God is telling me how to love. So it doesn't matter what the person is doing over there. It matters what he is telling me over here. So therefore, when the hungry needed food, I would have fed them because he said to do it. When people were afflicted, I would not have afflicted them because he said to do it. But since I afflicted the people, messed up the hungry, I can't have a heart from him. Look at 1 John. I got to do it. Look at verse 16 of 1 John chapter 3. We know love by this, that he laid down his life for his friends. And we ought to lay down our lives for the brethren. But whoever has the world's goods and sees his brother in need and closes his heart against him, how does the love of God abide in him? Little children, let us love not in word or in deed, but in deed and in truth. For we will know by this that we are of the truth, that we assure our hearts before him, that whenever our heart condemns us, when the finger we look at it and see where it's going, for God is greater than our heart and knows all things. Beloved, if our heart does not condemn us, we have confidence before him that whatever we ask, we receive, because we keep his commandments and do the things that are pleasing in his sight. Even when we get to heaven, this is going to be an issue. Look at Matthew chapter 3. We can't neglect these people at the outreach center. We can't neglect the people in the community that are hurting just because we got a paycheck. He is saying, hey, watch your heart. If all you did was get your paycheck and get excited and don't ever turn your heart towards somebody, you got a problem that looks like you don't know me. Because when I came on earth, I fed the hungry. When I came on earth, I took care of the naked. When I came on earth, those who had the demons, I removed it. You see me sitting back saying, I'm Jesus, I'm in heaven, I'm so righteous and perfect and holy. I got such a great time in heaven. I got everything available to me. I got angels below me. Satan can't do nothing to me. Hallelujah, praise the Lord. I'm going to church. I'm going to have a good time. I'm going to die on the cross and go to heaven. No! For 3 years, I'm on the countryside. Healing people, waking people up from the dead, doing all this work. Why? That's my heart. That's my heart when everything was good for me, when everything was perfect for me. I didn't forget the hurting. Didn't forget them because my heart in the midst of hard times poured out who I am. I never forget. My brother wrecked my car on the day I paid it off. On the day I paid it off, my brother, no trying to do anything wrong, my brother. I love my brother John. John will do anything to help people. He's in Nacogdoches helping kids that are falling behind in school. He works all night long, takes a nap, get up at 3 o'clock, 2 or something, go get these kids from all these schools, bring them to a church there in Nacogdoches Bible Church, and then he takes care of making sure, recruiting all these people from SFA, Stephen F. Austin University, and recruit those students and help the kids to get back on their feet so they don't flunk out of school. That's what my brother does. So he's not my brother. He's not going out there doing anything to my car. He just had a wreck. That's just who my brother is. I walk up to the house. Car's like, the right side is like halfway into the passenger seat. It's messed up. He just pulled it into the house because all I had was liability. I walk in the house, mad. You wrecked my car. I'm fussing at my brother. My dad walked over to me and went, my dad, don't forget, my parents never got the memo, the email that said, when you're 18, you're grown. That does not exist in my house. Dad, he wrecked my car. And he was about to slap me again. Well, I got really converted. I come to know Jesus really quick. He said, you walked in this house and you saw that car on your way in, son. And you never asked your brother, how is he? You was fussing over that car. That car is bashed in. You ever thought, you didn't even look to see if your brother has a broken limb? And you're going to come in my house fussing? What's wrong with you? You're my child. What is he saying? How could you see the pain that could have inflicted? I never care about the person. Because this is the heart of this family. Now you fix that. And he went and sat back down, turned on his TV, and kept looking. Guess what I was supposed to do? Hey, John, how you doing? He expected it. God is going, some of us are so fighting for ourselves during this virus. What about the other people? Does anything inside of us move us to say, who am I helping today? God allowed me to eat. Allowed me to keep my job. He allowed me to take care of all that I didn't have my needs. When does that move me to say, what about the people who are hurting? Where are they? How are they making it? We have an outreach center doing stuff every day. Now we're down to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Feeding people that cars are on Antoine from West New York. Hurting. Look at verse 31 of Matthew chapter 25. And when the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, then he will sit on his glorious throne, and all the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate from them from one another. And shepherds separate the sheep from the goats. And he will put the sheep on his right and the goats on the left. Both folks are in heaven, but some people are goats in his mind. They eat anything. They do what they want to do. Then the Lord, the King, will say to those on his right, the sheep, come you who are blessed of my Father. Inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the earth, from the world, foundations of the world. I knew you. I knew what you're going to do. I already got this set up for you. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. Naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer and say, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or naked and clothed you? When did we see you sick or in prison and come to you? In other words, we didn't see somebody sing righteous and wonderful like Jesus, walking around like angels around him, majesty all over him, a crown around him glowing, and we saw that and we go, yeah, man, we got to go do this. That's Jesus. No, we saw a hungry person, a naked person, folk locked in jail. We didn't see you, but we still did it. Watch it carefully. He says, the King will answer. This is in heaven, folks. Truly, I say to you, to the extent that you did it to one of these brothers of mine. I like that word. These brothers of mine. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. Who are the people that are hurting? His hurting people? No, they are his brothers, his sisters. That's who they are. You help my family. Look at what he says. Even the least of them. You did it to who? Me. So he says, now come, let's share, man. Come on now, come on now. He says in verse 41, he says, then he would also say to those who on the left, depart from me, accursed into the eternal fire, which has been prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, you gave me nothing to drink. You weren't even saved. You just acted like you were saved. You came to church, you did all the right things. But when a person is saved, they become a brand new creation. Old things pass away. Behold, everything is new. So the issue now is, are you really saved? He says, I was a stranger. You did not invite me in. Naked. You did not clothe me. In prison. You did not visit me. Then they themselves also will answer, Lord, when did we see you hungry and thirsty and a stranger and naked and sick in a prison and did not care for you? Then he will say, answer them, truly I say to you, to the extent that you did not do it to one of the least of these, you did not do it to me. These will go away into eternal punishment, but the righteous into eternal life. See, so we come to a sermon like this and we could ignore it. God is saying, I ain't. We got to learn that there's a comeback. It's not, oh, we're glad to get the vaccine and come back. No. God is saying there's a reason I sent you out. And there's a reason I let you back. You could have been dead like the people in the wilderness. And you never make it in. But I kept you. So I want you back. But when you come back, you have a greater responsibility. Now that I've kept you. So you better come back airtight. I pray that this message touched your life, folks. I know it has touched mine as I research stuff as a pastor trying to figure out, God, you could do a lot of things, but you don't have to touch the church. There's a whole lot that happened in Egypt, but you didn't let it touch your people. So there's a reason why you've allowed this to also impact the church. And researching that and studying that rather than just saying, okay, we're back and okay, the virus is down, is not the way that I feel led as a pastor to do. So I hope this message encouraged you. Hope this message stirs in your heart the work that God has for us to do. And I pray that we can all grow together, folks. It's not about who has this and who has that. It's about we're all in one army fighting one enemy, trying to make sure we take care of God's people so that we arrive in heaven productive for the glory of God and has done our part in laying the road work for someone else to be able to effectively serve God and stay encouraged as the times are in the last days are getting worse. And we ain't seeing nothing yet. So we really need to learn this process and grow together. And I pray this message touched you effectively that way. Look forward to God allowing us the privilege of being back together. I sincerely miss you all.